The story begins with a family. There are 3 members in this family: Kim, Soo-jin, and their little daughter, Young. Soo-jin was busy with household chores, but she often felt unhappy in her married life. Her husband, Kim, went to see a psychiatrist to talk about his wife. Why exactly he went there? We'll find out later. Back home, Kim helped Soo-jin with her work and gave their little girl a bath. During dinner, Kim suggested, "Let's go somewhere for a trip." But Soo-jin replied, "Back when our marriage first started, I told you many times. On my parents' birthdays or during festivals, I want to visit them. At that time, you said going 2 or 3 times a year was fine, but not more than that. Even during my pregnancy, I couldn't go anywhere." Later, Kim took Soo-jin to his mother's house to spend the spring festival. There, Soo-jin helped her mother-in-law with cooking. When Kim saw a pile of dishes in the sink, he began to wash them. Seeing this, his mother smiled and said, "My daughter-in-law is lucky to have such a good husband." Soo-jin chuckled and replied, "Oh no, I do all the housework at home." The mother-in-law laughed and said, "I was just saying." Early the next morning, Soo-jin noticed her mother-in-law busy with chores. She stepped in to help, and she gave her an apron as a gift. Soo-jin was delighted with the present. After breakfast, Kim asked Soo-jin to get ready quickly so they could spend the spring festival at her mother's home. That was the plan. But just then, Kim's sister arrived with her family to spend the holiday. Everyone was chatting together while Soo-jin worked alone in the kitchen. The mother-in-law told Soo-jin to take a rest, but Soo-jin replied, "If you really want me to rest, then let me go to my mother's house. She also wants to see her daughter happy during this festival." Then, out of nowhere, Soo-jin said, "I want to see my daughter too." Everyone was shocked. Kim's sister said in surprise, "Your daughter is right here with you." But Soo-jin answered, "Let my daughter come to me." The truth was, Soo-jin had started behaving like her own mother. Sometimes she acted like her mother, other times like her grandmother. And this was the very reason why Kim had gone to see a psychiatrist. Trying to handle the situation, Kim quietly took Soo-jin to their room. Then he prepared the car to drive her back home. On the way, Kim called his sister and told her not to let their mother phone Soo-jin's house, because he didn't want Soo-jin's family to know about her mental condition. When Kim finally brought Soo-jin home, her family was overjoyed to see them. After a while, Soo-jin fell asleep. When she woke up, memories from her childhood came flooding back, how she and her sister would playfully tease their mother. At that time, their grandmother used to say, "Girls should always stay quiet and help with the cooking." Soo-jin and her sister helped their mother, and later, when Soo-jin went back to the room, she saw everyone talking together. Under the table, she found a pen that her father had brought from England. Kim noticed that Soo-jin had placed that pen inside a glass of water. Then he gently told her, "Many of my colleagues go to psychiatrists. I think it would be good for you too." At first, Soo-jin refused, but Kim tried to convince her. After pregnancy, women often go through big changes in their emotions. Sometimes they even suffer from depression. That's why it's important to see a psychiatrist. Soo-jin finally agreed. On his way to the office, Kim hugged Soo-jin tightly. She kept wondering, why had Kim's love for her suddenly grown so much? Later, Soo-jin stopped by a flower shop. When she saw the shopkeeper's daughter heading off to work, it reminded her of her own past. Before marriage, Soo-jin also had a job in an office. Back then, she was excluded from the planning team. Her boss called her into the cabin, looked over her file, and smiled in approval. Soo-jin asked, "Is there something lacking in my work?" The boss replied, "No, not at all. I called you in to praise you." Soo-jin said, "I thought you didn't like me. Why didn't you put me on the planning team?" The boss grew serious and answered, "The company looks for long-term commitment. For female employees, it often becomes difficult to stay on until the end." With a firm voice, Soo-jin said, "I can do it. Even after marriage, even after having children, I want to work with the same confidence you have." Lost in memory, Soo-jin now realized, after marriage, many women's lives change completely. No matter how much they want, they can never truly return to their old life. Soo-jin then went to her daughter's school. There, 2 women invited her for coffee. As they chatted, it became clear. Before marriage, all of them had jobs. But after marriage, life was tied up in routines, housework, looking after children. That's all their days were about. On her way home, Soojin noticed a sign at a shop that said, "Part-time job available." She also ran into an old colleague from her previous office. Soojin showed her a picture of her daughter. The colleague praised the little girl and said, "You could easily join the office again if you wanted." But Soojin smiled and said, "That's not possible now." The colleague encouraged her, "If you try, you can." That night, when Kim returned home, he told Soojin, "You should go to the gym regularly. It'll help you feel better, both physically and mentally." At that moment, Soojin brought up the idea of taking a part-time job. Kim objected. Soojin insisted, and Kim finally lost his temper, saying, "No one wants you to do a part-time job right now." Those words cut Soojin deeply. Later that night, Kim woke up and found Soojin sitting with a drink in her hand. When he tried to talk to her, she absent-mindedly said, "Soojin is physically weak now. Give her more time. I know you love her very much. Please take care of her." Hearing this, Kim grew even more unsettled. Seeing Soojin in this strange, unfamiliar state broke Kim down. It was as if she wasn't herself anymore, but someone else entirely. The next day, Kim went back to the psychiatrist. He said, "Sang-yeon was my college classmate, and Soojin's senior in high school. Soojin liked him a lot. Something happened last year, during childbirth. Since then, Soojin has been shattered. Is that why she's suffering from this depression?" The psychiatrist said he wanted to speak with Soojin personally. In the morning, before going to the office, Kim gives Soojin the doctor's contact number and says, "Today you will see the doctor." Soojin went to the hospital, got a token, and waited. In between, she called her mother, but her mother was too busy with the shop, so the call didn't go far. Soojin hung up, disappointed. Then she learned from reception that the consultation fee was very high. Hearing this, she decided not to go in. When Kim found out, he asked, "Why did you come back without talking to the doctor?" In a cold tone, Soojin said, "I'm fine. Why do you keep asking me to see a doctor? Why waste so much money for no reason?" No matter what Kim said, he couldn't convince her. Soojin drifted back into her past. When she was still in school, there was a boy who often harassed her. One day, as she stepped off the bus, that same boy followed her and told her to stop. Soojin was so terrified that when a woman came to help, she clung to her and burst into tears. When her father arrived to pick her up, he said, "Why is your skirt so short? You shouldn't be smiling in front of others." In other words, instead of blaming the boy who had harassed her, he blamed his own daughter. Crying, Soojin said, "I wasn't smiling, and I didn't even look at his face." Her father replied, "Why didn't you look? You should have recognized him. From now on, you'll transfer to another school." Even her father didn't give her courage. He didn't stand by her side. Later, while Soojin was spending time with her daughter, another memory returned. She remembered when she was young, how her mother once praised the handwriting in her notebook, saying, "What beautiful handwriting. I also wanted to become a teacher." Once little Soojin had said, "Then you should become a teacher now." Her mother smiled and replied, "Now I'm Soojin's mom. I have to take care of you." Feeling hurt, Soojin said, "So because of me, you can't become a teacher." Her mother lovingly stroked her head. Back in the present, as Soojin woke up from sleep, she could almost feel her mother's hand brushing gently over her hair again. The next day, Soojin went to meet her former boss. He encouraged her to rejoin the office. She hesitated. "It's been so long since I worked. Will I really be able to do it?" When the boss reassured her, Soojin agreed. The story then slipped into another flashback. One evening, while the family was having dinner, a phone call came with her job results. It turned out, Soojin had qualified for the position. Everyone was thrilled, though her father disagreed at first. But with the family's pressure, he eventually gave his permission. Back in the present, when Kim came home that night, he found Soojin waiting excitedly to celebrate something. Kim asked, "What's the special occasion today?" Soojin beamed, "I got the job." But Kim showed little excitement. Hurt, Soojin asked, "Don't you want me to go back to work?" Kim replied, "I'm only thinking about our daughter." Soojin pressed, "So, does that mean I shouldn't go?" Kim smiled softly and said, No. If this makes you happy, then I'll be happy too." At work, Kim sat in silence, lost in memory, remembering how they had first talked about having a child. At that time, Soo-jin wasn't ready for motherhood. She wanted to continue her career. Kim had reassured her, "We'll raise the baby together, equally, side by side." It had been such a beautiful moment. Recalling everything, Kim returned home and told Soo-jin, "I'm going to take a 1-year parental leave from the office. For 1 whole year, I'll take care of our daughter." Soo-jin was overjoyed by Kim's words. She called her mother-in-law to share the news about her new job. But when her mother-in-law heard about Kim's parental leave, she became furious and hung up the call. Later, Soo-jin's mother-in-law phoned Soo-jin's own mother, saying, "If she really wants, she can pick up a small part-time job around the neighborhood. But how can she pressure my son into taking parental leave? My son has a future ahead of him." She added sharply, "Your daughter isn't normal." Then she brought up an incident from that spring festival years ago. Hearing all this, Soo-jin's mother grew deeply worried. Meanwhile, Soo-jin was shown breaking down further under her mother-in-law's cold behavior. Kim called his mother and demanded, "Why did you speak to Soo-jin's mom like that?" Later, Soo-jin's mother came to visit her. Soo-jin was very upset. Her mother urged her to take care of herself, to prioritize her own wishes. But as her mother was leaving, Soo-jin suddenly called out, using her mother's name. "Misuk, when you were young, you took care of your brothers. And when you did sewing work and got paid on time, my heart felt like it was stabbed with knives. You were so strong, yet I couldn't hug you tightly. I never even thanked you. Misuk, please forgive me. When Soo-jin works hard, give her strength." Her mother was shocked. Soo-jin was speaking as if she were her grandmother. Soo-jin then clutched her daughter tightly, sobbing, "Why did you become like this? How could you end up this way?" That same evening, Soo-jin's father came home carrying medicine for their son. He said, "This is for our boy." Hearing this, Soo-jin's mother grew furious. She threw all the medicine onto the floor and cried out, "Do you only have 1 child? Why didn't you bring medicine for your daughter? Don't girls get sick? Do you never worry about them?" That night, regret washed over Soo-jin's father. Quietly, he ordered another box of medicine, this time for his daughter. The next day, Soo-jin met her former colleague and said, "I won't be able to work at the company." Her colleague asked, "Is that because of your child?" Soo-jin replied, "There's no reliable place to leave my daughter. And besides, I could never earn as much as Kim. The money I'd make probably wouldn't even cover the cost of a babysitter." That night, she told Kim, "Tomorrow, I'm going to tell my boss I can't do the job." Kim urged her to think it over once more, but Soo-jin said, "My family and my mother-in-law, I'm constantly fighting this battle." Kim finally confessed, "There's another reason I don't want you to work." He told her everything. Kim said softly, "You often turn into someone else." Soo-jin looked confused. Then Kim showed her a video clip. In it, Soo-jin was behaving exactly like her mother. After watching, Soo-jin finally realized something truly was wrong inside her. Crying, Kim said, "I'm so scared you'll get sick. It's my fault you're like this. Because you married me, you ended up in this state." From then on, Soo-jin began seeing a therapist. She asked, "Will I never be okay again?" The therapist replied, "The very first step to recovery is showing up here and talking to me. And you've already done that, which means you've already begun to heal." Hearing those words, Soo-jin felt a little relief. She said softly, "Just talking to you makes me feel so much better." While working at home, Soo-jin notices snow falling outside. She calls her mother and asks, "Do you remember the day I was born?" Her mother laughs and says, "How could I ever forget that day? When you were born, cherry blossoms were blooming everywhere. Even the sky looked so beautiful." Soo-jin then says, "When my daughter was born, it was snowing too. I gave birth to a beautiful little girl." Later, Soo-jin meets with her boss and tells him, "When I'm fully recovered and ready to work again, I'll reach out to you." Her boss agrees. The next day, Soo-jin tells her therapist, "Sometimes being a mother or a wife brings me joy, but other times, it feels like I'm trapped. I always feel this invisible wall. I know the road, yet I keep going in circles. And somehow, I blame myself for everything." The therapist calmly replies, "This is not your fault. One day, Soojin goes to a restaurant to get some coffee. She overhears 3 people talking. Why do people even bring their kids to places like this? As Soojin leaves with her daughter, she accidentally drops her coffee. She quickly bends down to clean the mess, but then she hears those people criticizing her. Gathering her courage, she walks up to them and says, "Do you know me? What could you possibly know about my life after just 10 minutes of seeing me? How can you judge me like that?" She continues, "Don't waste your strength by hurting others." Then Soojin takes her daughter and walks away. At her next session, the therapist asks, "How are you doing now?" Soojin replies, "I'm not completely happy, but I'm not completely hopeless either. And maybe that's not such a bad place to be." Time passes, and Soojin slowly begins to heal. Kim has now taken parental leave from the office, caring deeply for his wife and daughter. Meanwhile, Soojin has become a writer. She's writing the story of her own life. She begins with the words, "I was born on April 1st, 1982, at Seoul Maternity Hospital. My father was a civil servant and my mother was a housewife." And that's where the story ends. This story beautifully shows how, after marriage, a woman's dreams often get tangled in the chains of responsibility. No matter how much they fight, they can never truly go back to the life they once had. But in the end, Soojin managed to fulfill her dream, because her husband Kim stood by her side every step of the way. Maybe every woman deserves a life partner like Kim. So how did you feel about today's story? Let me know in the comments. And tell me, have you too lost your dreams somewhere along the way?